Hello everyone. So in last class we saw how to configure user interface from the App Studio. What I'll do, I'll just recap what we saw in last class or last session, and then today I'll try to explain the data transform, because data transform is one of the most usable rule in Pega. Okay, because for anything for any small calculation, or if you want to set some variable value, or like there are many things which you can do from data transform. So we'll see very few examples. Okay, so I'll quickly first recap. So in last session, if you remember, we had created a case type, okay, which has two steps: create and approve leaves. And then we had two data objects where we were filling employee details and leave details to apply the leave. In apply leave case type, we had configured our UI. So if you see, like, it was already configured in last session. So if you want to modify anything, so we can go ahead and modify. So what we have to do, we have to just click on that steps and click on configure. So here, if you remember, okay, we had created a view, another view from here, okay, last time. So we created, but this time it's already there, so I can just click on open and it will open. So just wait for a second. So you can see here it came, and last time I forget to mention that from here only, okay, we can say that this is required field or not. Okay, so if you want to make it required all, we can do it required also from here only. Okay, so we can leave it few optional. I mean, obviously you can do from the Dev Studio as well. You can go and open this section, okay, and you can just open the properties for the each fields, and then you can make it required. So this is like on a very basic things. Like here the Pega is giving an options, okay, that either we can make it required, read only, if you're doing read only. Okay, so these kind of a things we can do few things. But like if your condition is complex, that it can be read only based on some conditions, then you can do from the Dev Studio. But like if the condition is very simple, that it should be always required, you can mark it from here as well. So I just like I in last sessions I forget that one, so I mentioned in this one. So I'll just submit again. So now what I'll do, I'll go ahead and create a case, okay, and then we'll see how we can use a data transform here. Okay, so I'll try to create a case. So, one second, again this became read only, so I'll just go ahead and enable that from the Dev Studio, make it editable so that we can fill some value. So if you remember, we marked it, like we went to presentation, and from that edit options we selected auto to make it editable. So now I'll create a case again. So if you see, like I just now I marked this first name, last name, and employee details as a mandatory, so that is coming as a mandatory. So if I try to submit this screen, it's saying no, you have to fill this. Okay, so this is like out of the box error message coming. So now coming to the data transform. So if I'll just search in Google Pega. So you can see there are like tons of uses for this data transform. Okay, so on a very high level, if you see, the purpose of data transform is to manipulate the data in applications. Okay, as I was saying, that manipulate means like we can set some value, like there are like lot of things we can do. Let's say you want to calculate, okay, you have a number A and number B, and you want to calculate and put into variable C, that you can do. Let's say you have a first name and last name, and then you want to add together and create a user full name, that also you can do. If you want to loop, okay, something, that also you can. There's like there are many things which we can do. So the purpose of data transform is to manipulate the data in application. Data transform copy or like, so it's saying copy or manipulate data into the form you require. So it can copy also data, like let's say you have a data on object X, and you want to copy on object Y for some calculations purpose. So like there are many things we can do. Data transform can be used to convert data from one type to another type, another iterate over page list or page group, copy entire pages at a time. So you can see this account information, shipping informations, and payment informations is there. Okay, So like there are like many things which we can do. Okay, so let's go ahead and like do a simple things, okay, with data transform in this sessions. Okay, okay, so I'll go ahead. Okay, so I'll go ahead and try to fill this information. So if you see, like we were discussing in last session also, this the employee details should come auto, because when you are applying a leave in any organizations, okay, these details should come auto. Okay, so what I'll do, on case creation only, okay, we will try to fill this detail. Okay, so what we will do, we'll create a data transform and we'll set the value, okay, in these values. So let's see how we can do it. Okay, so the now first we'll go ahead and create a data transform called set employee details. Okay, so we can create from many places. Okay, so from here also we can navigate. There are like many places. If you watch my video like navigate Pega Dev Studio, then you'll find that from the many places we can do. So from here also create, we can go to data model, data transform we can create. Again we can from here also we can say create, and then data transform we can do, and then also from the specific class. Okay, so from here also we can do. So from here if I do, it will take the class in a context while creations, but if I do from here or from that records tab, it won't take. Okay, so we have to give the class. So let's see. Okay, I'll try to create from here and then we'll give our class. So data transform, we can give some meaningful name, like let's say set employee details. So I'll just give set employee details. Okay, so now you can see, as I was saying, that the applies to class will not come, so we have to give here. Okay, so we can give apply leave. Okay, so we can select from the drop down, either we can type, okay, Pega will suggest, and then we can create this rule. Okay, so now let's see how what all things we have. So first tab is the definitions. Okay, so here only we'll add our all logics, and then we have the parameters. So let's say if any parameter is coming, so just treat this data transform as a function of a Java or any in any language. Okay, if you're just writing a normal functions, so what all things you can do. So you can pass parameter. So that is what we can do here. We can pass few parameters and we can give the parameter name and the descriptions what that parameter will do, and that parameter is of output type or input type, and parameter is always required. So those things we can do. And then pages and classes, it's like a creating, like in Java or in any language we create object, right? So we give a temporary object name and then the class for which class we want, so that also we can do here. And then test cases. So in Pega we have the test cases also, and Pega supports the test case for data transform, so we can create n number of test cases for this rule to test different scenario. And then we have history. We can give what is the disk, like what is the usage of this data transform, and then specifications few, like this we'll see later. Okay, how we are using this data transform against, like we can create a specifications and like kind of add it here. Okay, in case like the name of the specifications and then for which case type and little short description. But that's fine, we usually don't use this much for each and every rule, but these are kind of important tabs: history, and then test cases, page and classes, and then parameter and definition. So let's come to definition and see what all options we have. So you can see we have a set first. So set is basically setting some value. Okay, let's say if I want to copy the value, like copy variable 1 value to variable 2, that in that case we can use set. If I want to just hardcode assign a variable, hardcode variable, let's say I have a property A and then I want to just set a value at 10, that in that we can use it. So in that scenario we use set. And then remove. So remove is something is already present on my object, okay, object or page, okay, and which I want to remove from that memory, and then eventually once I'll save that instance, it will get removed from the database as well. So that in that case we use a remove. Update page is basically like creating an object, okay, of like complex object So here, if you remember, in last class also we created a two page type property, employee and employee details, leave details. Still those will be there, so I'll quickly show you. So those are like kind of a object. So if you have to initialize, we can just initialize that. So let me show you here quickly. So in data model property, so we have these two property, leave details and employee details. So these are like kind of a page. Okay, so in Pega we called as a page. If you are familiar with Java or any other technology, we usually call object of that class. Okay, so here employee details is a object of employee class, and leave is a object of leave details class. So if I just click here, and then we'll see in our this object is referring to the data class employee class. So you can see here it is referring to employee class. The similar way, leave request is referring to that one. So in that kind of scenario, when we want to initialize that object, we can use update page. And then if you want to call like in any language, from one functions we can call another functions. Okay, in similar way, from one data transform we can call another data transform. For that we can use this one. And then sorting, if you have a list and if you want to sort it either in ascending order, descending order, or like starting from A or something like that. Okay, so that we can do. Okay, so you can see here we can give a page list is basically an array. Okay, we can give an array, and then it will sort. Okay, how we want to sort it. And then comment. Okay, we can add comment. Like, okay, for after each steps, if you want to add some comments, so basically that's like, okay, if I'm like, this is the steps I'm doing in this one. So for that we use comment. When is like kind of a rule. Okay, or like when is as simple it is saying, okay, what is the condition. So if you can see the moment I selected when, so inside that when, again we will do the same things. Okay, if you see, these are the kind of a main operations. Okay, set, remove, update page, apply data transform, sort. Okay, so when is like, it's just giving a condition. Okay, that okay, when this is the condition, and after that what you want to do. So inside that you can see, like, again we'll get all those options. So that is when. And then otherwise when. Okay, we can again give another when. Okay, let me select otherwise when. So we can give otherwise when. So first we'll give when, and then after that we can use otherwise when. Okay, or we can give like, if you're using when, and then we can simply use otherwise. Okay, so if you have like multiple if else conditions kind of a switch, we can use a when, otherwise when, and otherwise we can simply use when or otherwise. So that's how we can use, like, these kind of a things is just like inherited from the like our traditional language. Okay, more like a switch functionality if you want to use all in a combination. And then we have append to features. Okay, like append to is that we already have a list, and if on that list we want to add something. Okay, so you can see that the moment I selected append to, it is asking for a page list. So I can give a, let's say I have a list of employee, and I want to add one more employee. Okay, so in that case I can use append to, and then append to and map. Okay, so after appending, if you want to map some value, so these are like kind of a little advanced level which we will see later, but like just we want to understand how this data transform will work. And then for the looping part, here it is there for each page in. Okay, and then exit for each, and then exit data transform. So these are like, these three things is for that loop. So we can use for each page in, and then if some particular conditions match, then we want to exit that for each. Okay, so that is how we can use the looping. So basically in loop we want to say, okay, let's say we were searching for an employee ID. Okay, and if that employee ID we got that employee ID, then we have to exit that loop. Okay, so that is, in that scenario we can use exit for each. And then from there only, if you want to exit this entire data transform, okay, let's say we have a 20 steps in data transform, and if particular steps is true, if you want to exit data transforms, we can just exit it. Okay, so in that kind of a scenario we use exit data transform. So for now what we will do, we will just use a simple, okay, so simple two steps. Okay, so first step I'll use is update page. So update page, and then I'll give employee details. So basically I'm initializing, okay, kind of a, or creating an object of employee details. Okay, initializing a new object. So what I'll just I'll add a comment and then say initialize employee details. Okay, So this is done. Okay, so basically if I run, I can run that individually as well. Okay, so if I run here, let's see what it will show. So basically if you see that employee details got initiated, like kind of object got created, and the class of that px obj class is that the out of the box property which holds the class. Okay, like for which class we want to initiate object. Okay, so employee details, as I mentioned, that it's a class is qtm leave app data employee. Okay, so basically this page got initiated. Okay, so we initialize that. Now we want to set a few values. Okay, these values, so that it will display when we will come to that UI. Okay, so now after initializations on that same page we can set these values. So the first name, okay, so we can set it here, and then we have the last name, so we can set again this last name as well, and then we have department, so we can say ppm, and then we can add email, and then we can add mobile. So in email we can give qtomata@gmail.com, and in phone number we can give 12345678990. Okay, so now this is done. Okay, so if I run, we'll see, let me run again. Okay, so this we are running without UI. So you can see that inside that employee details, okay, all entire things got set. Okay, whatever I set those, okay, that is coming. So now if I'll just plug it somewhere in the UI, so before coming to the UI, these things will get populated, okay, on the UI. So let's do that. Okay, so there are like many places we can plug it. Okay, but what I'll do in pre-data in a flow actions, okay, we have a Pega gives an options to add a pre-data transform, so we'll add that one. Because see, this data transform can be used from any places. There are like so many places from where you can call. The most common are pre and post data transform. From the connector of the flow we can call, from activity we can call, from data transform to data transform we can call, and there are like n number of places from where the data transform we can call. Okay, so for now what I'll do, I'll go ahead and call it from that our employee details flow action. So we can see that we had two flow actions. Okay, approve flow and create form details. So create form details is basically our employee details flow. Sorry, let's go to flow actions clearly, simply. So we have the enter leave details, and then in place of like enter employee details we were using create only, so we can rename that. Okay, so we have two flow because we have a two steps and two stage, and inside that only we have one steps. Okay, that is where we have. So create form default is basically where we are entering that leave employee details and leave details, and the second one is approve flow. So this is the flow actions which gets called, okay, to load that employee details. So in actions we can go, and here you can see that we have a pre and post processing details. So we can give that pre and post. Okay, so in pre we can use data transform, we can use activity, we can run some robotics, and the same way we can do in post also. We can run robotics, we can give data transform, and we can run activity. Okay, so here we want to just like do it in pre, because the moment this UI gets loaded, okay, we want to set these values. Okay, so then we have to do in post. Okay, and let's say after like submission of employee leave details, if you want to populate few details for that like leave details, that we can do in post. Okay, that we can do in post of this flow actions, or we can do in the pre of that leave details. Okay, so that's how we use pre and post. Okay, or if you want to, let's say after submission of this UI, if you want to save something in the database, in that case we can use pre post data transform. So I just refer this data transform here. Now let's go ahead and run that. So I'll just cancel this one, and I'll try to create a new case. So see, the moment it got loaded, like most of the details came. I think we missed to enter the employee ID, so I'll just quickly add that as well. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create another case. Okay, so now let's create another case. So we can see the most of the details, like every details came. Okay, it got populated auto. So this is how we can use the data transform to fill the UI. Okay, so as we can see, the Pega also in the academy is saying that we can do that, like data transform can be used for many purpose. Okay, we can manipulate the data, we can populate the data on UI. So here we saw a very simple examples how we can populate the data on UI. And also the data transform acts sometimes as a like constructor. Okay, so how it acts as a constructor? So if you remember in Java, what constructor used to do, so whenever you used to like run our program, okay, so basically main class, okay, constructors first call like first it will call and then it will initialize those value, okay, which we need before like running our like main program. Okay, so here also before creating a case, so when we are creating a case, Pega gives us a data transform which we previously used to call model, that will get executed before our case creations and do the stuffs which we want to set, like we want to set some urgency or we want to initialize few things before our case creation, so that we can do. And the name of that data transform is fixed. Okay, that will never change, and the name of the data transform is py default. So whenever if you want to initialize few things before our case creation, the data transform which Pega uses, that name of the data transform is py default. Also let's go in that class and see the data transform. So you can see that there are like three data transform: set employee details which we created, and then Pega created these two. So this is what I was talking about, the py default. So py defaults act as a constructor. Okay, so it will get loaded. Okay, or it will get loaded when or it will get executed when we'll try to create a case. So you can see here this got created and this gets created by Pega, and this is, you can see here another example that from this data transform we are calling another data transform py set field details. So here it's saying automatically generated by system for populating data during live app processing. So here we can set few things. So let's say I'll try to set a property and run. So here we can set things that will like that will get sets before our case creation. So let's set here something. So let me set py label. So py label is an out of the box property. Okay, so if I create a case, now the py label is coming apply leave. Okay, so I'll just change it from apply leave to I'll set something request leave. Now when I create a case, okay, this data transform will get executed and then the value will come here. But you can ask the questions that like here also we are using, but why we are not using that data transform here? So we can set those property here also. Okay, but it depends based on our like code logic that when we want to do that. Okay, because there can be situations that we can have another screen. Okay, so the particular screen data, okay, particular screen data like we should call the data transform from that flow actions. Okay, so and in py default we should set something which should not be dependent on any particular UI. Okay, so for employee details, these informations were like tightly coupled with this UI, so we set it here only. We can set before also, but let's say that like let 3 or 4 screens before that. So why I'll set the data and the py defaults just in the start of case creations. Okay, because like let's say that after case creations with some with some logic, then we are like determining that this is the employee id, and then we can fetch the employee details from the server and then populate that. So that is where like this can be set, like particular UI data transform should be called before that UI. Okay, but in py default we can set the value on initiation of a case. So let's create another case and we'll see. So now the request leave came. Okay, so like both the data transform is working. Okay, but this one py default is working, we were not noticing, but py default is like when while creation of a case, this is our first enter employee leave details is our first screen, that is we are recognizing, but both data transform is working, but this one is getting called, the employee details is getting called, first the py default is getting called, and then later, okay, this one is getting called. Okay, so this is the difference. Okay, so py default we will always use for initializing few things before the case creation, so that you have to remember if you are working on Pega, if you are like going to work, that will help you in future. Okay, to initialize few details, and then you can write your own data transform to do n number of things, as I am saying, and that you can call from many places. So this is it. Now one more thing, so I'll show you how we can trace also. Okay, so that tracing is also, and debugging is also important. Okay, that what value, let's say if you want to debug, what value we're setting in data transform. So the one option is you can trace the entire things. Okay, entire session using this tracer. Okay, so here we have a debugging tool called tracers, and it will trace each steps, but it will have a lot many steps which may not be useful for you. So what you can do, Pega gives another actions. In the actions, we can use trace options. Okay, and from here we can use like trace it. So now let's go ahead and create a case. Okay, a new case. So you can see here like whatever the steps we did it in the data transform, that is not coming. So you can see here py default didn't came. Okay, because py default we were not tracing, we're just tracing this data transform, and that will get called before this data transform. So you can see in each step, so here we are setting first name. So if I just see here, will not see other details. Okay, but as I move upward, we'll see each value. So whatever the value we are setting before, that all is coming, and if I finally check the last step, we'll see all values on the employee details page. So you can see here entire details is there, and it's there on an object called employee details. Now inside that employee details we have entire details, and this, as I mentioned, this px obj class Pega will always set. Okay, because this is the class of that employee. Okay, and then rest of the attributes which we are setting. So this is what for the data transform. Okay, I hope like you learn few things, and in similar way what you can do, you can try to populate your leave details also, and before going to that screen, and then you can modify and submit. One more things I'll quickly try to cover here is the test cases, because the warning is coming for test cases. So test case is very important. Okay, and then also history. So history we should give some meaningful name. So for now, let's say I'm just giving set employee details. Okay, before loading employee details screen. So that something like that we can give. Okay, so now I'll quickly show how we can create a test case as well. Okay, so to create a test case, we need a rule set. Okay, which will just store the test case. Okay, because in normal rule set we cannot store the test case. So I'll quickly go ahead and create a test case. Okay, so I'll say leave app test case, and I'll create a rule set. So to store the test case, we have an option. So we have to go to category and select use this rule set to store the test case. So now this is done. Okay, so I'll just refer this new rule set in our application, so that will come, and then we just created 0101 version. So I'll just save it, and now I'll go ahead and try to create a case. Okay, so how you can create a test is like you can run with the different situations. So you can say run. Okay, and then if I run, so all details got set, like populated on employee details. So if you come here, so see, after like a successful execution of this, Pega is asking you want to convert to test case. So I can say yes, convert to test case. So I just click on that one, and now if you see, Pega is trying to create a new test case. So here you can see that it will load, just it's taking a little time. So now in the expected result, so expected result is the sections, in that we can say that this is the what I'm expecting from this rule once this rule will get executed. So we can just click on add property, and we'll expand this one, and we are expecting that once this data transform will execute, the first name should be Lalit. So I can just add this condition and save it. Okay, and then I can save this test case. So basically we are saying that once the execution is done, okay, on the employee details space, the first name should be Lalit. So if I run now, okay, we'll see the test case got passed. But if I'll just say in case of Lalit, if I just set submit and try to run, it will fail because the result, the value will not come submit. Okay, so see, the test case failed. So this is how we create a test case. So what this is what I'm inputting and this is what I'm outputting. So that is the test case. Okay, this is a rule testing. So now if I just save it, okay, the warning will go away and the test case will come here. So you can see that it's a failed now, but I can run now, run selected, and then it should pass because like I discarded it, so that the value is now Lalit, so it will pass. Now we learn quickly the test cases also. Now we'll learn parameters as well. So I'll take one employee ID as a parameter, emp ID as a parameter, and say employee ID as a description. So now we'll use this as a condition and see how we can use parameter in condition. So here we are doing these things, right? So employee details. So what we can do, we can copy this like let me. So in the very first step, what I can do when, okay, and I can say, so to access that parameter we have to just say param. Okay, so param is the keyword, param dot employee ID. So we can say param dot employee ID equals to 1 2 3 4 5. And then we can take entire steps and we can paste it inside this one. Okay, so you can see if param dot employee ID when once again, so here we are saying when param dot employee ID equals to 134, then execute this. Okay, otherwise we can add like a step 2. Otherwise do nothing. So we can simply say like condition not matched or something like that. Okay, like it's basically we are like executing conditions. So you can see that 2 steps: when employee ID equals to 1 2 3 4 5, do this one, or what we can do else, set the default employee ID. I mean, there won't be default employee ID like that, but we can do. Okay, just like for our learning purpose, so we can paste below. So if employee ID equals to 1 2 3 4, it will set this one. If employee ID is other than this one, then it will set, say, instead of Lalit, I can just submit. Okay, and then in place of Singh, let's say I'll say Gupta. Okay, and then instead of BPM, BPM Pega, and then in place of employee ID, obviously employee ID cannot be the same, so I'll just change it to 4 5 6 7 8, let's say. Okay, now I'll execute it. Okay, so now if you see, the difference is now if I try to execute, it will ask that value, and here it's saying employee ID. You can see that. So if I'll run here by passing 1 2 3 4, and then also I'll take a tracer. To show you, so you can see that. Okay, if I now I run, then I'm getting Lalit saying 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so like these conditions got matched. Okay, this condition got matched, and if you see in the tracer also, or the condition is true. Okay, employee ID equals to 1 2 3 4 5, and then it set the value. Now what I'll do, I'll run with another value. Okay, I'll just say, I'll just pass 6. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6. So what it will do, it will not match. Okay, and then it will set that the submit submit details. Okay, so let me run it again. So now if I run, you can see that the Samit Gupta came and then employee ID 4566678. And also here you can see that param.employee ID became false. So this is how we can use, like there are like variety of uses are there with the parameters we can do. Okay, we can use parameter to hold a temporary value as well, but there are like a number of uses. We heavily use this parameter, but I just show you a very simple example that in a functions, if you are passing employee ID, based on that employee ID you can do some calculations. So this is what it for today. Okay, I hope this will help you, and you can go and do some POC on data transform, try to populate leave details, and if you have any questions you can uh, comment in, like you can ask in comment section, or you can drop a note to me. Okay, so thank you very much. I hope this sessions will help you. Thank you.